Hey guys, Jason here with the One Stop How To Guys, bringing you episode 14 of Practical Drupal Development. In this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit more about Drupal core's taxonomy module. Now, we looked at this module a little bit a couple of episodes ago, and we discovered that it's a system used to group content together using specific terms. Now, the method that we looked at used kind of an on-the-fly system where you could type in a word to categorize that piece of content right there when you created the content. And then that term could be reused again when you created a new piece of content. But until you entered the term the first time, it just wasn't available to you. And what we want to do in this episode is actually create a pre-built list of terms. And the terms that we're going to use are going to classify our articles here as either a Drupal development article or a music theory article. Now, you can use this for just about any kind of classification system that you want. In the past, I've used it to classify products into specific product types, be it a building or a toy or a piece of clothing. So this is pretty versatile, and you can use it to group any kind of content together that you want based on any kind of classification system. So what we're going to do is we are going to come up here to Structure, Taxonomy, and we're going to add a vocabulary. Now, vocabularies are groups of similar taxonomy terms. So for instance, what we're going to do is we're going to create some terms to classify our article types. So we will name our taxonomy here article type. So this vocabulary is going to contain all of the different options for our article types. In this case, it's going to be Drupal or music theory. So now we have our vocabulary created here. We need to add some terms to this vocabulary because it's empty as of right now. So the two terms that we want to add, first of all, are going to be Drupal development, and then we're going to save that. And then also the music theory term. And there is a quick little trick here when creating taxonomy terms, and this doesn't work with every field, but some of them, once you get the name in, if you just hit enter, it will save that term. Now there's something else that I wanted to show you. If we come back over here to list, we're going to see that our list is pre-built with our two different taxonomy terms. But taxonomy vocabularies kind of function a little bit like a content type does. Now, they aren't content types. They are not creating nodes and things like that. However, each taxonomy term can have its own set of fields and displays. So if you come over here to manage fields, you can see that when we create a taxonomy term, we can also give it the same options that we have when we create a content type. So your taxonomy term could have an image. If you were doing a products overview page using taxonomy terms, maybe you had toys, clothes, and grocery. Each one of those terms could serve as a link into the products section containing those items, and you can give that link an image. You can give it a description. So taxonomy terms can have the same fields that we have when we create a content type, so that we can fully customize what that term has associated with it. For what we're doing, we don't really need all these other options, so we are just going to leave it as its default, and we're going to add our two terms. So let's go ahead and close this down. So now what we need to do is add a field to our article that contains a term reference to the taxonomy terms that we created, so that we can actually classify these articles one way or the other. To do that, we need to go up here to Structure, Content Types, and then Article, and Manage Fields. And what we're going to do here is we are going to create a new field called Article Type. And from this, the field types select box here, we're going to select term reference. Now, we do have a couple of widget options here, and this is kind of important when creating your taxonomy term references. The tags field that we created, or we didn't create, but was created automatically with the article type, allows you to do the on-the-fly tagging. So, as we saw previously, if we wanted to type in Drupal new website, we can add those tags and comma separate them dynamically on the fly, and that list will self-populate. Now, that is not what we want to do here. We do not want our end users or content editors to be able to add tags other than the categories that we have, because we don't want somebody classifying this as like a Java development series when we don't have a Java development series set of articles. So it allows us to control what terms are actually allowed to be used. Whereas the other one, we just want them to tag it with whatever they can, and then we can group articles together that might have the same tags. But for this, we specifically want a set of list of tags. So what we're going to do is we're going to select from here just the select list. Now, you could use the checkbox and radio buttons if you want to. The way that that works is if you can only select one, it's going to give you radio buttons. If you can select more than one term, it's going to give you checkboxes. And the select list is just fine for this since we only have 2 terms. It's not going to be that hard to navigate. So save that. The next page that we're going to come to is going to ask us for the vocabulary. Now, this is kind of strange to think about here. The tags we could select. Now, the tags have been self-populated. We didn't go into the taxonomy and add terms to the tags, which we could have if we wanted to, but we were allowing the content creation process to create that list of tags. But if we selected tags here this time with our select list option, we would only be able to use the tags that have already been created. It's kind of weird to think about how this works. It all depends on which field type widget that you select. If you select the select list, you can only use the terms that have already been declared. And if you select the autocomplete, it allows you to tag them on the fly. So it's a weird thing to kind of wrap your head around, and as you play with taxonomy a little bit more, you will start to understand the process of how it works a little bit better, but it can be kind of confusing right off the get-go with the different methods of actually adding taxonomy terms and the different methods of selecting taxonomy terms to content type. So I really encourage you to just play around with this system. Add random taxonomy vocabularies and term references to different pieces of content. Use all of the different widget options and just see how they work, because now is the time to learn that. You don't want to have to learn that on the fly when you're building a production site. You want to learn it while you're still learning. So I really do encourage you, add all kinds of different taxonomy terms, even if they're kind of meaningless, to just see how this system really works in grouping content together. So let's select the article type and save the field settings and move on to the next section. I didn't mean to stall up there too long, but I did want to really make sure that you kind of know to keep practicing this stuff and not just following along verbatim to this tutorial series, but learning more and more as you go. We have the options here to select a default, enter some help text as usual, the number of values. Now the thing with the select list is when you select unlimited, if you have a small list and you want to do unlimited, do checkboxes and radio buttons, because the checkboxes are going to be so much easier for your content creators to use. When you have a select list and you select unlimited, it does force the user to hold control and click. Let's actually see what that does. We'll go to unlimited here real quick. We're going to change this back, but I just want you to see how this works. It is actually one of the most annoying features that I think I've seen as far as content creation goes. So let's pop here into this top article that we have and click edit. And what you can see here is at the bottom here is our new term reference. And if I want to select multiples of these, clicking on them just will not do. I can click and drag and it works. But if I wanted to select none in music theory, I can't really do that too easy. And you have to hold Control and then click on the other options that you want. And then if you don't want to classify this at all, you have to click on that one. So it is kind of an annoying system, and I don't understand why that's kind of the method that they went with, but it really isn't very user friendly. So if you have a large list, then you probably should. We're just going to come back in here to manage fields to change this back. If you have a large list, the checkboxes and radio buttons can be quite cumbersome to the content type. But if you have a small list and you want to do multiples, after seeing how this kind of works, it is much better to use the checkboxes. So we're just going to come back in here and use one, and we're going to close that down and let this refresh. All right, so now what we need to do is we just need to go through our articles here and classify each one of them depending on what they are. So what I am going to do is I am just simply going to go through here and classify each one of these articles, and then I'm going to actually skip this part. So I'm not doing anything different between now and when we come back. I'm just going through and classifying these articles as either a Drupal development article or a music theory article, and I figured that would be really boring to watch. So I will see you in about 30 seconds. Okay, so now that we have all of our articles classified either one way or the other, let's take a look and see what that actually did. So if we click Read More here, we can see that at the bottom of each one of our pages here for the news section, we have the article type and then the term that we selected. Now what this is doing is obviously, like we looked at before, it's populating a list of content that have all been tagged with that same taxonomy term. So if we go to one of the Drupal articles, we can see that when we click its taxonomy, here are all the other articles linked to Drupal. And if we come in here and we click the music theory, and it looks like somehow through this whole process, I missed one, of course. So let's classify this one here real quick. And then if we click the music theory tag, you can see that we have a list of music theory. Now, if you want to leave this way, you can. And then if you actually want to kind of edit and tweak how this looks a little bit, you can come up to Structure, Content Types, Articles, Manage Display. And what the taxonomy term pages use is this teaser option up here in the top corner. And here are the different things that we can use. So if we drag this up here and save that, moved a little too fast for Drupal. So let's try that again. Save that. And close this down. You can see that the tag now has been added. So if you want to leave this way and you can tweak this display, you can. I, however, am not going to leave this way because I wanted to show you something really cool that you can do using taxonomy and views to create a really dynamic overview page. So we are going to actually just pull this off of this display by going to Structure, Content Types, Article, Manage Displays, and just click on that. And for the default, we just want to drag this article type right off the page and save it, because there is no reason for us to display that at all. So once this refreshes, you will see that there is nothing there anymore. There's something really awesome in views called an exposed filter. Now, we looked at the filter criteria, and let's just pop into our view here real quick. We looked at the filter criteria when we did our different views as like kind of like a funnel that funnels content down based off of this criteria we specified. So is it published? Yes. And is it of type article? Well, yes, it is. So it doesn't look like the dynamic preview is working. So we're just going to have to save this down every time we make changes. So what an exposed filter is let's just say we want to filter down to content that has a given taxonomy term. So in this case, we want to filter down to content that is using our vocabulary of article type, but the actual term we want to filter down to isn't one or the other. It's whichever one the user selects. So we want to show all content that is of type Drupal development or content that is of type music theory, but which one we want to filter down to, we want to leave up to the end user. And we do that using something called an exposed filter. So let's go ahead and click add here. And we want to come down and find that field which we named article type. Let me get my caps lock off here. Article type. So here is the article type. Now I'm not real sure off the top of my head. Yes, this is going to work. So let's click the drop down option and click apply and continue. Now we could either select one or the other here. Boom, boom. Or we could select them both and limit our list just to that, but that's not going to be very dynamic. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop off both of these, and we're going to click this expose this filter to visitors. And this is going to allow them to select which one they actually want to use. So let's just say article type here. You can make that whatever you want, and let's just click apply. And we're going to save down this view since for some reason my preview isn't working. And what you're going to see is this new box has been added, and it has the word any and both of our taxonomy term options in here. And what you can see is that this is still just working as normal. But when I come in here and select the Drupal development and click apply, this is now only showing us Drupal articles. And if I come over here and I select music theory, it's now only showing us music theory options here. So this gives our site visitors a lot more control over the content that they want to see. You know they want to see news articles, and when they get there, they're going to see all of these different news articles. But maybe they want to only see news articles related to Drupal development. Maybe they don't care about music theory or vice versa. They can now control this so that they can only see the content that they actually want to see. And then if they want to go back and select any of them, they just can click that and it's going to show them all of them. Now there's a couple other really sweet things we can do with this filter. First of all, if we come in here and edit this view, and we come over to the advanced section and we come to the exposed form style and click the settings, we can actually just auto submit this and hide the submit button. And this is going to save our users a click. That's really all it's going to do. It's going to remove that button, and once you click one of these, it's just going to auto do its thing. Now there is another cool option that you can use here, but it does not work with our infinite scroll. It is the Ajax option, and in order to show you that, I am going to have to turn off infinite scroll here for a quick second. So I'm just going to display all the items on the page, offset by none. And we're going to come in here to advanced, and this use Ajax, we are going to say yes. And this is going to do something really cool. So let's save this down. I'm just going to click here to get this URL refreshed here. And now, obviously, our infinite scroll is no longer working. But instead of reloading the page when I select one of these different terms, all it's going to do is reload this content region. So the users no longer have to wait on the URL to refresh and reload in order to see the content that they want to see. Now, there is a conflict between infinite scroll and Ajax. They don't like to play together very nicely. So you cannot use the Ajax option and the infinite scroll option together within the same view. So whichever option you want to go with, I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm actually going to leave mine on with the Ajax because I love the way it looks and I love the way it functions. And maybe we'll use infinite scroll somewhere else on the site. But if you want to use the other way, go for it. But this is just kind of another option that taxonomy gives us. So we've seen, just to recap here, we've seen that taxonomy terms can either be created on the fly using the autocomplete widget or predefined using the taxonomy vocabulary list terms options. So there's two ways of actually creating taxonomy terms. And regardless of whichever way you use on the content type, you can always come into taxonomy, select whichever taxonomy you want, and edit, delete the terms, add more terms. So that doesn't matter. So we have two ways of creating taxonomy terms. One, through structure, taxonomy, the taxonomy term itself, and then add terms. Or two, on the fly, using the autocomplete widget. So there's two ways to add them. Those taxonomy terms are logically grouped together in something called a vocabulary. And the vocabulary, as we just said, groups logical types of terms together. For us, the tags are grabbing all of the random things that the article might be about. They're kind of a catch-all. The article type is specifically defined to the different types of articles that we are going to be posting. And now we've also seen two ways in which we can use taxonomy. One of which is to just leave it on the page and allow it to create a link to another page that houses all of the different articles tagged with that specific term. The other way is to use a views exposed filter to allow users to select the different types of content that they want to see. Because remember, your site is all about providing users with exactly what they want when they want it. And by allowing them to have an exposed filter to limit down content, that's providing another piece and another layer of customization that allows your end users to have exactly what they want when they want it. So I know this was kind of a long tutorial. It had a lot of information, and it had a lot of information really fast. We covered views exposed filters, we covered taxonomy terms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, encourage you to play around with all of these different options, play around with different exposed filters, and see what those things actually do. Play around with different taxonomy terms, and always feel free to send me an email with any questions you have. My email address is in the description below of all these videos. So if there is something that you just really didn't get, I will explain that to you in as much detail as I possibly can. And if I get a lot of the same questions, I'll just do a video on it. But always practice, and always feel free to send me an email with any questions you may have. So if you like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and I will see you in the next episode of One Stop How To Guys Drupal Development.